Welcome to Pint Glass Gaming. As always, I'm Gary. Got a very special episode for you guys today. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. At E3 2021, Nintendo dropped a bomb on fans everywhere. Finally, after almost 20 years, we're getting a true Metroid sequel. Metroid Dread was supposedly cancelled years ago, but not only does it exist, it's coming out in October of 2021. This is awesome news, but I have some catching up to do in terms of Metroid lore. So for this episode, we're going to discuss the Super Nintendo classic, Super Metroid. So, truth be told, this is my first time playing through this title. As a Sega fanboy in the 90s, I missed out on a lot of great first-party titles from Nintendo. I fully bought into the advertising line, "Free what Nintendo don't." When you look at titles like A Link to the Past, Super Mario World, and Super Metroid, the Genesis just can't compete. Games like this have no equal on any of the Super Nintendo's contemporary systems. It took me 20 years to admit that. I had to go on a program. To gain a real cultural appreciation for this game, we're going back to April 18th, 1994, the day of its release. Mr. Jones by the Counting Crows is the #1 song, and parents are stabbing each other over Beanie Babies. Sega marketing would constantly claim that Nintendo was for kids and lacked that 90s bad attitude. Cue the title screen with the corpses! Metroid was released to almost universal acclaim. Critics went so far as to claim it might be the best game of all time. And you know, with praise like that, I've gotta try it for myself. In terms of graphics, these effects are awesome. The opening sequence is about as cinematic an experience as you're gonna get in a 16-bit game. The game takes off right from the end of Metroid 2 Samus Returns for the Game Boy. To catch up with that story, I think your best option right now is the recent remake released for the 3DS. That game is going for less than $30 right now, so you might want to jump on it before Metroid Dread drives all the earlier game prices up. Well, Samus has brought the last Metroid larva in existence to the Galactic Federation for study. But she gets a distress signal from the lab she just left and is forced to return. Those tricksy space pirates and their leader Ridley, who may I add has already been killed twice, have attacked the lab and have taken the Metroid to continue their plans of weaponizing the creature. Well, guess we're gonna have to stop them. The graphical effects in the game are truly impressive for the hardware. Check out the scaling of Samus' ship here. I mean, come on, that's cool. And the detail put into what must be thousands of sprites throughout the game is amazing. The weapon effects are all cool, and who doesn't like palette-swapping costume upgrades? One complaint I have of pretty much every Metroid game, however, is that there's really no variety in terms of environments. I get that you're on an uninhabited planet, but everything eventually looks the same. Compare this to something like Castlevania, where you're in a giant castle filled with all sorts of interesting areas, and well, this can get pretty dull. Now, when it comes to sound design, Metroid has some iconic pieces of music that I will always look back on fondly. I used the startup song as a ringtone for a while. It's awesome. There's some digitized reading of the intro screen, which was rare in this era. It's also admittedly not very good.
The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
The regular stage music is not intrusive and fits the atmosphere of a wild, new frontier in space. When you encounter a boss, the music amps up to a bumping, intense battle song. Speaking of bosses, all of the classics that you look forward to fighting in a Metroid game are here, plus some new ones. Ridley is still a bastard that you fight on a small platform surrounded by lava. My favorite boss is probably Kraid, though. Kraid defies description. You simply have to see him to understand. A fat, booger-colored alien who shoots hands and dirty fingernails at you is the best I can come up with. The bosses are a challenge, but if you explore every nook and cranny of the levels, you'll be well equipped to deal with each of them. In fact, I breezed through pretty much every boss until this purple bastard showed up. I hate you, Ridley. Now I have to address a bit of a complaint. The start of the game sets everything up from the first two games, so no one really feels like they're missing out on anything. Cool. But there's no dialogue, no narrative, and no explanation for what happens in this game. Silently telling a story can work, but I had no idea what the hell was happening on screen in the closing moments of the game. No explanation would come until the release of Metroid Fusion in 2002. So if you want to understand the ending to this game, Fusion is basically mandatory. All that aside, I had a real blast playing through this game, though I certainly didn't go the completionist route. The pacing is awesome, and the upgrades are a great carrot to keep chasing. Unsurprisingly, this game receives the Pint Glass seal of approval. I'll be playing through Fusion next, since it has been a while since I last played it. Metroid Dread couldn't come soon enough. Looks like I am definitely going to have a busy October. That does it for this episode of Pint Glass Gaming. If you enjoy our content, we would very much appreciate if you liked and subscribed. More content will be coming shortly, and we hope that you will join us for any future videos.